Hello, friends. Welcome to Islington Listens, wisdom from a community of faith that doesn't think the same, vote the same, or love the same, but we are trying our best to follow in the way of Jesus with compassion and hope.
I'm assuming most of you, like me, have a few issues with leaving things behind. It seems to be a human dilemma. And it isn't always tangible items sometimes we're called to leave behind. I had a plan for my life when I was young. It went something like this. After studying French and English literature at Mount Allison University and doing a couple of summers of French immersion to become fluent, I was going to move to Quebec, marry a francophone, have lots of children, and teach. I didn't know what I was going to teach. I was just going to teach. When I applied to Teachers College, or whatever it was called in those days, I was too late. I didn't get in. So I explored some work options. Dixie Lee Fried Chicken was looking for staff. And my father, the earthly one, said actually a second degree was non-negotiable. So I opted for the ministry. Yes, it was my second choice. And yes, I did it with my heels dug in, raging against the closing of the dreams I had for my life. But I did have lots of kids, and I spent the first 15 years of my ministry in Quebec, so I guess maybe you could say God and I met somewhere in the middle. And you know what? I'm really glad I listened. I'm glad I followed the call. I'm glad I listened not only to my earthly father, but I'm really glad I listened to Jesus. Now, let me tell you, it wasn't all easy. It took me miles away from my family for the rest of my life. It demanded a lot of me academically, financially, and spiritually. But that's sort of what happens, isn't it, when Jesus shows up? This morning's reading, along with others we normally hear in the season immediately after Easter, has always been one for me that has created a longing, a deep and abiding longing to experience Jesus in the way those early disciples did. I want Jesus to walk into the midst of my feeble, humble efforts in life and tell me what to do, where to cast my net, how to get results. And I can tell you every minister these days would be more than happy to have that sort of divine inspiration. In fact, there's a great book written by a minister, John Pentland, in Calgary, called Fishing Tips. And it has proven helpful to many congregations, highlighting ways to be a church that speaks to people today. We studied it in my last congregation, and our plans to implement it got sidetracked with COVID. But you know, I've always wondered, in retrospect, if we would have been ready for the changes we would have been called to make if Jesus had showed up at that point in time to tell us where to cast our nets. Because once you've made contact, once you've opened your ears and eyes and hearts and souls, once you've acknowledged Jesus' presence in your midst, then the real work, then the really hard work begins. Because when Jesus shows up, as he did with the disciples, there might initially be sort of a warming of the heart and a few helpful hints to fill the nets. But usually, the next step is to turn all of the plans you had made upside down, to deeply disturb you and to call you away from your firmly held notion of what you are supposed to be about. I often wonder if Paul expected his life to be changed in that one intense moment of clarification on the road to Damascus. I wonder if he really wanted to exchange roles and become the persecuted rather than the persecutor. I wonder if the disciples really had planned to pack their bags, or perhaps more accurately, to leave their bags and their baggage behind, to head out on a journey marked with hardship, resistance, persecution, and sometimes death. This week in the U.S. Capitol, a prominent preacher, theologian, theology professor, and social rights activist, William Barber II, was arrested for praying in the rotunda of the Capitol building. Well, actually, he was arrested because he was praying for human rights and for dignity for those most at risk as a result of government decisions. He was arrested. That is what can happen when Jesus shows up and shows us how and where to cast our nets. It's the chance we take. We like to focus on the reassurance Jesus brought to the early followers when he showed up, assuring them that they had not been forgotten, assuring them that they were not alone, assuring them that a spirit of truth and wisdom would continue to be in their midst. We need those words of comfort. We need those reassurances, perhaps even more than ever today. With all that is happening in our crazy world, we so need Jesus to show up and reassure us. But when Jesus does show up, it isn't all warmth and comfort, is it? And the question always is, can we handle it? Are we really ready for it? Because when Jesus shows up, anything can happen. I'm going to share a little secret with you. When I first set foot in Islington after retirement, I wasn't planning to stay. I really wanted a break from the institution. And then when I decided to stay, what I said to Maya was, please don't ask me to do anything. And whatever you do, don't let me near any church meetings or politics, or I'll be gone in a flash. What happened? I guess Jesus showed up, as Jesus always does, and before you knew it, before I knew it, here I am. I must say, though, that I think Jesus began showing up around here long before that little encounter I had with him. Jesus began showing up here long before that, docking his boat, using his Uber account, or perhaps breezing in as that pesky spirit is known to do when you least expect her. Because if we're talking about hauling in a full net, it's happening here at Islington. Do you know how rare it is these days for pews to be almost full, and sometimes full to overflowing, in a mainline Protestant church? Do you know how incredibly fortunate you are to have a staff team dedicated to working with each other to share the good news of Jesus Christ with you and with the community beyond your doors? It is very clear to me that God, Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer, has a home here at Islington. And so maybe it's not so much about when Jesus shows up, but maybe it's more about whether or not our hearts and minds and souls, our very lives, are ready to welcome him and to accept both his words of affirmation and his words of challenge as well. And so I wonder, fresh from celebrating Easter, fresh from professing our faith in the resurrection and new life, fresh from readings like today's of Jesus' appearance to the disciples, I wonder if we're really ready to hear just how and where and when Jesus wants us to cast our nets. I wonder if we're ready to let go. I wonder if we're ready to let go of those things we find it hard to leave behind. Are we ready to let go of the individual dreams each of us might have for the dream Jesus has for us and for our community? And remember, if your back goes up, if you bristle when you think of letting go, of changing, of moving forward, or going in a direction you didn't expect, trust me, you are not alone. We all have trouble letting go, but oh, when we give way to the hopes and dreams and plans and aspirations Jesus has, whoa, what a world can be created for us and for others. And in the words of Reverend William Barber II, in a prayer he prayed in the Capitol building in 2017, may Jesus shake the foundations of our conscience until we cannot help but change our course. May he move us on to study war no more. May he cause us to live our lives to serve others, to teach us that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness requires justice and hope and help and caring. May he expand our morality beyond the narrowness of personal piety into the broadness of public policy. And may he give us the strength to challenge racism, poverty, ecological devastation, and so many more things. May it indeed be so when we open our hearts, our minds, our souls, our very lives to the presence of the risen Christ in our midst.
Thanks for listening, friends. For other ways to connect, go to islingtonunited.org. May God's wisdom and love keep finding you.